I'm Georgina Sherrington, and I recently played Kate in Stop Eject, which is why we're here. And when I was growing up, I played Mildred Hubble in the series The West Witch, and she was the West Witch of the school, and she'd variously kind of destroy the world by casting a wrong spell and then save the world, and then everybody would forget that she'd saved the world, and the next episode she'd be the worst of all the witches again. I did read the books long before the series, but not all of them. So I'd read, I think, the first and the second one and absolutely loved them, but I didn't really realise there were more. We did several auditions, and for the third one there were 12 of us, kind of 14 of us maybe, gathered in a room, and they were reading out who was called back for which role, and they read Enid, and everybody else nodded their head but looked a little confused, and up went my hand. Who's Enid? Because I hadn't read the third book where she showed up. And I read it, you know, obviously before starting filming. The director, Andrew Morgan, there were several directors, but he began the series. He didn't want to cast me. Everybody else wanted to cast me. And apparently he was the one that was holding out, and he wasn't sure. And so they sent everybody else away to lunch on the final audition. And he had me back in just one-on-one in the room, and he asked me about myself. And this was, I think, the day after I had my arm in a sling for the whole first two auditions, and it had come off the day before the third audition. So that was, they almost weren't going to cast me because they didn't think my arm was going to heal. And I got that, I think, falling over when I was rollerblading. And then I sat down in front of him, and he started asking me about how, you know, my schoolwork and things, and I explained that I did get in trouble quite a lot. And he asked why, and I'd always done the homework, but I would leave it at home or I'd forget it and things. And apparently I came out of that interview and he was like, right, yeah. And in the same way, the cat, they cast the cat because they saw something like 50 cats. And when they saw Tabby, she peed all over the scripts. They were like, that's the cat, that's the girl. And my parents sat me down, and I don't think they meant it for a second, but they said to me, if one grade drops, you're not carrying on, you can't do it another year. And they didn't mean it. There's no way they would have stopped me doing it. But I took them very seriously, and I absolutely loved it, so I didn't want to let my grades drop. And it meant that I worked really hard, and I learnt to work at the weekends, and we had a tutor, but that she would mostly supervise and answer questions as we went. And I had 7 older girls who could help me if I got stuck because they'd done the work that I was doing. So it was fine, actually. It was okay. It meant that if you weren't on set, you were in the schoolroom. It was my first day off school for The West Witch, was to go and get a wig fitted. That was the first thing I did. I'd had a medical, but I think I'd done that after school. And everybody else was going on a school trip, and I got to go to the BBC wig store because that's where we got our wig. And it was this camp as anything man. I don't think I'd ever seen someone dressed that way. I mean, he had this gorgeous waistcoat and this diamond earring, huge diamond rings. And he wandered around this huge wig store and just opened a drawer that's probably the size of you, blindly put his hand in and pulled something out without looking. I don't know how he did it. And that was the right wig. We didn't try on any others. That was my wig. And it's funny, I was really nervous and I couldn't really understand why they'd chosen me. I was worried that I wasn't going to look like Mildred, and that I'd looked at the books after being cast, and did I look like her? And they put the wig on and they put me into plaits, and I looked in the mirror. I looked just like her, and it was the first time that I'd seen that too. You know, I was so excited. It was probably the happiest day of my life when I found out I got this part. Still probably the happiest day. And I remember thinking, this is the best thing ever. There's animals, there's magic, there are books I absolutely love. Everybody seems really cool. There's a whole film set. I'm the lead actress. This is amazing. There's one thing that could make it better, and there's no boys. Working with the other girls was fantastic. We're still really good friends, most of us. We're all in touch. And it's like having sisters, that we know each other so well, because we didn't just work together kind of 10, 12 hours a day. We'd then go back to a hotel and stay in the same place. We were basically together, and we had to be together. We shared a chaperone, and for the film company's purposes, we had to be looked after all together for 4 months straight. But it wasn't without its difficulties, definitely. a good kind of 3 or 4 years younger than most of the other girls. They were kind of 15 or 16 when we started, and I was 12, which is a difference to begin with. And then also I think I was considerably more sheltered, just by virtue of, I don't know, going to the girls' school or whatever it was. There were definitely a lot of sex jokes that went way over my head. Didn't even understand them, probably. And I think that was probably more difficult for them than it was for me, because I thought it was great. I thought they were really cool. But then you'd go away for 8 months and you'd live these totally separate lives. We wouldn't really stay in touch during the year too much. And then we'd come back again. So we'd changed quite a lot. We were all growing up, we were all teenagers, so we'd changed quite a lot within that time. Kate Duchenne, who played Miss Harbroom, Claire Coulter, who played Miss Cackle, and Una Stubbs, who played Miss Bat, Claire Porter, who played Miss Drill, they were central, I think, to the series' success. I don't think it would have been as popular for adults as well as children if it weren't for their comedic work and their kind of characters, but also for our experience. I mean, they were fantastic. And what amazes me looking back at it is that they never told us what to do or suggested a way in which we might say a line. They really let us get on with it. And yet they taught us so much. I mean, you were just watching some of the greatest actors today working. Kate Duchenne, I think, is a phenomenal actress who played Miss Hardbroom. And just watching them work, you'd learn a lot. And Kate, the story with Kate's audition is that she walked into the room, and I think she might have known some of the people she was auditioning with, I don't know, but she walked in and they said, look, you can't play Miss Harbroom. We're casting the evil teacher. I mean, she's supposed to be really fierce and stern. And Kate is the opposite of that. She's the most gentle, lovely, very humorous woman you can imagine. And she sat there and she said, no, I can, look. She did this. And they said, oh, okay. And so there were these two completely, she was so different to her character. And whenever we had little children come around the set to visit, they'd be really scared of her. My little brothers were terrified of her. And so, she'd never know what to do because there was nothing she could do to stop them being scared. But she was nothing like that. And she was a real giggle. Really, really funny. The cat, Tabby. We went through several cats. The main cat was called Merlin, I think. Yeah, Merlin. And he liked absolutely everybody. He was a lovely cat. He did not like me, because he knew as soon as he was put in my arms that we were going to be on a film set for 4 hours and it was going to be hot, and I was going to keep kind of picking him up and putting him down. And so he took to purring when everybody else came by and hissing and snarling. Not that bad, but he was not my biggest fan, which is terrible because I love cats and I had cats at home at the time. But no, the cat was lovely. And for Mildred, I just think it was an incredibly close animal relationship. I think about it a lot when I read Northern Lights, the Damon. And I think it marks her out as different in a way that she likes. And one of the few ways in which she liked at Cackle's Academy was that she had this special cat. And the bats, I really, really enjoyed filming with the bats because they were Mildred's, so it was always quite a special day, and it was always sort of scenes in my bedroom, which were good fun anyway. And they'd have to net off the ceiling because you didn't know what the bats were going to do. And one time it landed on the camera and it kind of pressed some of the buttons with its wing. And another time I think we lost a bat. I think it flew up into the rafters and we had to stop filming until it came down. Or that might have been a bird. It's one time we did a scene with the spider monkey who had to steal some candy, some sweets, and then run off. And I had to throw myself down on my knees to try and catch the monkey. And I just remember it going take after take after take because the monkey either wouldn't run away or it would run away too soon because it knew I was going to pounce at it because we kept doing this repeatedly. And yeah, my knees were raw by the end of it, but that was filming with animals. Yeah, my friends really teased me. When I was all through school, they'd be like, "You are not acting. you're just being you." And I don't know that that's true. She's quite different to me in some ways. I'm not as pessimistic as she was, or I did quite well in school. You know, I'm scatty and disorganised, but I wasn't ever in trouble a lot, and I didn't really know what that felt like. Whereas she was, and I think would sometimes expect things to go wrong before they even happened. Other than that, we were pretty similar. The first time we were in the green screen room, which is how we do all the flying, everything would be, I think it was blue at the time, but blue or green other than you. and the broom, and that's how it would work. And the first time that we did that, I was the guinea pig, so I sat on the bloody broomstick first, and it broke. It just sort of snapped in half, and I remember that being a moment where I was like, oh, this is me and this is my character. You had a little saddle, so the broom would kind of go it was like a bicycle saddle on a rostrum, or not even a table, like I don't even know what it was, like a pole with a saddle, a bicycle saddle, and a little foot stirrup, but not a very big one. And then the broom kind of hitched under that. So it was okay, but you couldn't put your weight. You know how you hold the broom? You couldn't actually put your weight on the broom because it was just a broomstick for some of the different apparatus. And when you couldn't, that was really hard because it's pretty hard to balance just with no hands. Jess Fox, who played Enid, we had a scene where the two of us rode the broomsticks, and I remember sitting there holding her. She was holding something like the broom or the pole, and I remember thinking in my head, if she moves a centimetre, I'm going to fall. And at that moment, she screamed out, "I'm going to fall!" And I ended up hanging upside down, I ended up somersaulting backwards, and I think she ended up upside down, and my wig came off and everything. But other than that, it was fine. I pretty much just enjoyed it all. I don't remember a day where I wasn't really excited to be there, or really excited to look around and see the film set. We filmed 2 episodes a year in Quebec because it was half Canadian government funded. So in order to fulfil our funding promise, we had to hire a Canadian crew for 2 episodes. Claire Coulter, who played Miss Cackle, was Canadian. And that was part of our funding agreement as well, that some of the lead actors were Canadian. So that was very much a part of what we were doing. And it was great fun filming in Canada. You got to travel, you got to see Montreal, and you got to work with a predominantly French-speaking crew, which was really good fun. Yeah, my friends were absolutely fantastic about it. I went to an all-girls school. It was quite competitive anyway. It would have been so easy for people to be mean about it, and I don't remember anybody ever doing so. I mean, beyond the odd kind of joke that gets a bit boring because you've heard it 100 times, everybody was really supportive. And for my close friends, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world for them to be really supportive because, especially in the 2nd and the 3rd year, every time we went out, it's fine for me to get recognised because it's cool and it's nice to hear from people that like the show, and it was nice to talk to them. But I think for my friends, they had to listen to the same conversation 100 different times, and it wasn't really something that interested them. But they were great about it. And then I had a group of friends from another school, and I cannot remember them once letting on that they thought it was cool. I just don't think they did think it was cool. I don't think they were remotely bothered that that's what I did. And that was really nice, actually, because I still find it strange that people find it a huge thing, because nobody in my immediate life has ever really treated it like something other than what you do when you're away. If Miss Cackle's Academy was a real school, would I have liked to go there? Maybe after the food episode. I'm quite a fussy eater, and the food was pretty grim. We had this food episode, I think, where some kind of magic spell happened and we convinced them to create magic food and let us eat pizza. Prior to that, the food was pretty disgusting. But you would get to learn loads of magic. And I did always wish that we could actually have magic powers. That would be phenomenal. So it would probably be worth the strict rules and the cold, dark kind of mornings if I got to fly a broomstick and actually magic things. Well, there were different types of magic. There was memorising the spells, and I was quite good at that because that was a bit like Latin. And I didn't enjoy Latin at school, but I could do it because you just have to sit there for long enough until you've got it memorised. But then there was the potions, which were, I suppose, be a bit like chemistry experiments, and as my old chemistry teacher will tell you, I was not good at the practical side of science. I was also quite clumsy. So maybe not. I don't know. Do I have any opinions on Harry Potter? Well, I was in an audition for Anne Frank, of all things, after The West Witch. I think it was after the 3rd series, maybe after the 4th series, and I was up for Anne Frank, which I clearly was not right for. But it was with ABC. And the casting director said, yeah, I was hired by ABC to cast for your film, but what a shame it got pulled because of Harry Potter. And I was like, what? And I still don't know whether this is true or not, but apparently that we were going to make a film and we didn't. We made Weird Sister instead. I've never really enjoyed the Harry Potter novels, or I've only read the first one and I've only seen the first film, and I didn't enjoy them very much, but not because they weren't good, but because it was just too weird. Like, I'd woken up every morning for 4 years and put on a witch's outfit, and to watch other people do that and then get it slightly wrong, like they rode their broomsticks wrongly / differently, and they cast spells different ways, and I just found myself, I couldn't suspend disbelief. I couldn't enjoy the film because I was always comparing the two. And so I think if I have children, I'll discover Harry Potter then, and I'll discover it with them when they're watching it, and hopefully really like it, but I haven't. I think the week that I found out I was nominated for the award, I was in there was a double-page spread in some kind of magazine all about the series and interviewing me, and so it was the first time where it was beginning to get really cool, that side of things. And I got nominated for this award, and that was cool enough. And I called up Claire Coulter, who played Miss Cackle, to tell her because I was really excited. And she said to me, well, the film company will fly you out to LA for the awards ceremony. And I said, no, of course they wouldn't. Why on earth would they do that? And that's what they do. They fly you there. So it was not only this award, which I didn't know I'd won. I just thought I was nominated, which I was just nominated at the time. But it was a free holiday. We got to go to LA for 3 days. And it was fantastic. It was a really, really strange awards ceremony. There were two social groups, the adults and the children. And the children, they were like young Hollywood adults. They were dressed beautifully and they spoke like they were adults. They had relationships with each other. There was a whole gossip scene going on. The little boy from Baywatch was on my table. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Melissa Joan Hart was there. Her younger sister won an award. Mila Kunis was in my category from that 70s show. When I actually won, it was fantastic. I had not prepared a speech because I didn't want to jinx things, and I had not understood that everybody else would have prepared their speeches very carefully. I thought this would have been bad luck. And I had sort of hurriedly gone over something in my head in the car just in case, but that was it. And I got up on stage and couldn't think of a word to say, but I managed to get some thank yous out, and it was fantastic. Yeah, I did learn a lot about acting from it, and I think part of it is just the endurance and the commitment that playing a role well takes. And I do remember one of my least favourite memories. It was 3 or 4 years in, so one of the later seasons, and I was supposed to be whooping for joy about something or doing something really embarrassing, and I was going through, what at the time was a very serious breakup, but actually I think I dated this boy for about 2 weeks, but I was very upset. I'm really tired, and there were a whole load of extras who I didn't know staring at me, and sometimes there are just, I remember with the pirate line in Stop Eject, there are just lines you have a hard time getting, and I was having a really hard time with this one, and I remember thinking, you are holding up 200 plus people who are being paid to be here by someone who's funded this, whose job it is to get this done on time, and I just felt so guilty, because by then, and that was kind of age 15 or 16, and I think that's what's great about acting when you're young, you realise how much other people put in to you faffing about and, and weeping for joy at something. The show was a fantastic opportunity for all of us, absolutely. There's not a single one of us, I think, that haven't benefited from it in many amazing ways. One, we have each other and we're still good friends, and that's a sort of support network in itself, but everybody's doing great stuff. Felicity has obviously done incredibly well, and deservedly so. She's amazing. Charlotte Knowles, who played Sybil, runs a really successful film company. Holly, who plays Drusilla, is still a good friend who runs this fashion blog that's really alternative. She's dreadlocked and has this really, really cool, though very unusual sense of style. Joanna Dice, who played Ruby, she's dancing and as a backup dancer all around the world. Emma, who played Maud, is a mum and is doing a degree at the same time. I think all of us kind of juggle a few different things. I was working with some other child actors from Tracy Beaker and some other films yesterday, and There's not a single person it doesn't, you know, as long as you're not going to go and drink yourself silly with the money or the fame or whatever it is that other people do sometimes. I think on the whole, it really helps people. It gives you a kind of rounded attitude of life.